Hey everyone, and welcome back to WDIM News, my weekly podcast where I talk about sci-fi stuff and some other stuff. My name is Eric. Thank you very much for joining me today. I know that I took a week off in between podcasts. I was on a very nice vacation with my family, and I had to take care of some other work. But I'm happy to be back today with a good number of things to discuss. The first thing that I can't wait to talk about is the new trailer for the film Rebel Moon. If you follow my channel, then you already know that I'm super hyped for the beginning of this brand new sci-fi franchise that will begin later this year on Netflix. So I will discuss what I thought of this trailer, as well as give you a brief rundown of what the story is about and why I am so excited for it. Next, I get to talk about probably the only upcoming release that I am as excited about, which is the new Fallout live-action series based on the video game franchise. Bethesda, the company that produces those games, showed a teaser trailer for the show at a convention in Europe last week, and I actually got to see it. So I want to describe it for you and give you a couple other updates about the upcoming release. Then I have some miscellaneous news to discuss before I give you my review of the new Babylon 5 animated film that was released a couple weeks ago, which I will do first with no spoilers and then with spoilers in case you have not seen it yet. But before I go over all of that, I ask that you please drop a like on this video to help it get pushed out to more people by YouTube. Also, make sure that you are subscribed so that you do not miss when future videos come out. Alright, so first let's talk about that brand new trailer from Rebel Moon. If you have not seen it yet, I will put a link to it in the description of this video. You should definitely check it out. So, Rebel Moon will actually be two films. There's the first film, Rebel Moon, A Child of Fire, which will be released on December 22nd, 2023. And then the second movie in the franchise, Rebel Moon, The Scar Giver, which I think is an awesome name, will be released on April 19th, 2024. Director and creator Zack Snyder is actually forced to do most of the promotion for these films right now due to the current writers and actors strike, preventing the actors from promoting it at all. But these films will set up this brand new sci-fi universe, but this is the kind of synopsis that Zack Snyder and the folks at Netflix have released to the public. In a universe controlled by the corrupt government of the Motherworld, the moon of Velt is threatened by the forces of the Imperium, the army of the Motherworld, controlled by Regent Belisarius. Cora, a former member of the Imperium who seeks redemption for her past in the leadership of the oppressive government, tasks herself to recruit warriors from across the galaxy to make a stand against the Motherworld's forces before they return to the planet. The films are reported to be similar to a Dirty Dozen or Magnificent Seven style story, with one character rallying various other characters to fight for a losing cause. I love those stories because you get all these like badass characters that are completely different, and some don't really get along, some do. Some start to be friends, some like act like enemies and try and kill each other. And I love that stuff. I love learning about a lot of different characters, and it looks like we're definitely going to be getting that in these films. The films will star Sofia Boutella as the main character. If you're not familiar with her, she played Jaina in the film Star Trek Beyond, and she's been in some other stuff too. Other actors include Charlie Hunnam, who was Jax Teller in Sons of Anarchy, and he was also in the film Pacific Rim, as well as Carrie Elways, who I don't believe we saw in the trailer, but Carrie Elways is from like Saw and from A Princess Bride like 30 years ago. And also Anthony Hopkins is in the show, but he voices one of the robots. I think there's one main good robot, and Anthony Hopkins does the voiceover on the trailer as well. So I'm very excited to see all these characters and the actors that will be playing them. The story for these films began in Zack Snyder's head while he was still in like high school. Then he reworked the story into a film that would fit into the Star Wars universe that was almost made. But when Disney bought the rights to the Star Wars franchise, his movie was shelved. Zack Snyder then shopped the idea around as a new sci-fi franchise, complete with multiple films, an MMORPG video game, and a comic book series, which Netflix agreed to distribute. So when I say that these films will kick off a brand new sci-fi franchise, I mean it. There's a lot of plans and a lot of money being put into Rebel Moon and what this will create. And this could be like the new Star Wars. I know a lot of people, maybe even me, have like Star Wars fatigue. And this could be the answer to Star Wars fatigue, because I know a lot of people are comparing it to Star Wars and are saying it's like Star Wars light because of some of the similarities, and also because Zack Snyder almost used this story as a Star Wars movie. But it is important to note that Zack Snyder knew about this story and thought it up before Star Wars ever came into the picture. Like, he had this in his head. He wanted to make it at some point in his career, and then he tried to make it into a Star Wars film, and then that was shelved. So it isn't like this is a Star Wars movie that Zack Snyder is trying to turn into something else. This is really Zack Snyder's own vision, and it looks amazing. And a lot of people seem to be agreeing with me because the trailer currently has 10 million views over on YouTube in less than a week. That's a lot. I mean, I know they released a sneak peek, and that only has less than 500,000 views, but this trailer obviously is starting to gain some attention, and a lot of people are taking notice of Rebel Moon. So I'm going to briefly describe the trailer in case you have not seen it. The first shot in the trailer, I think, says a lot about this universe, because we see like a robotic hand graze over a field of wheat. Much of this trailer looks like a blending of old and new, as there are these huge spaceships and exotic weapons, but we also see people living in like dirt huts and fighting with regular swords. So it looks to me like a cross between the world of Westeros from Game of Thrones and the Dune films. Not so much Star Wars. I mean, I know Star Wars has like poor, dirty planets too, but I really didn't get the Star Wars feel from this as much as like I said, like Game of Thrones and Dune. I really kind of felt like it was a melding of those two worlds. The trailer appears to show at least 2 time periods and centers around the character Cora, played by Sofia Boutella. In one of the beginning scenes, we see this huge army attacking a ground force, and it looks less like a war and more like a massacre, because this attacking force have these exotic weapons that the ground force doesn't seem to have, and it just looks like they're just getting blown away. It doesn't look like much of a war. Anthony Hopkins, as I said, narrates the trailer and speaks of a Messiah-like figure that would bring an end to the war in the galaxy. Now, a lot of people have latched onto this and are once again comparing these films to Star Wars, particularly because of this plot point. But really, there are a lot of Messiah stories out there, and they're all really based on the New Testament. You really can take them all back to, the Bible and the New Testament. In fact, even Terminator, I saw a really cool video on YouTube about how like Terminator has all these allusions to the Bible. I never even got that. I mean, even the main character's name, John Connor, JC, just like, Jesus Christ. And I never really put that together. I feel kind of dumb, but there are a lot of stories out there about Messiah-like figures like Anakin Skywalker or like this new character in Rebel Moon. So I don't think this is like just a Star Wars story. I think that really you have to take it back to the New Testament if you're going to talk about all stories about a Messiah-like figure. Besides all the starships, there are also strange aliens and these big mythical-looking animals in the trailer that look like griffins. I'm really interested to learn about the lore of this universe and how everything connects, which I'm sure will be a slow burn. So like I said, this is going to be a huge universe. So even though we know there's going to be 2 feature-length movies coming out, I don't think that we're going to learn all the answers to this universe in those movies. There's a lot of stuff going on. It looks like there's a lot of different tribes and probably different planets and stuff like that. And there's obviously a lot of history with this main attacking force. It just looks really cool. And to see like all this sci-fi stuff, and then all of a sudden you see this guy riding a griffin, it's like, whoa, like this is like sci-fi porn. This is like everything I want to see in like a sci-fi movie. And I'm really excited for it. There's also a character with robotic arms that wields 2 swords that do look similar to lightsabers, but honestly a little cooler. The energy looks a lot like Kylo Ren's lightsaber. Like it's all like, it's not refined like the lightsabers in Star Wars. Like in Star Wars, the lightsabers go up to like this perfect line. But in the trailer for Rebel Moon, whatever character has the 2 like lightsaber things, she's wielding them. They're not straight line. And they kind of look a little more realistic and definitely more dangerous. So I can't wait to know about that character as well. Because I believe her character is from like a sect of monks or something that cut off their own arms just so they can get robot arms and wield these special swords. So again, there's just going to be a ton of lore in Rebel Moon and a ton of stuff to learn, and I can't wait to see it all. The trailer really looks amazing and intense, and it may be showing scenes from both films and not just the one. So like I said, there will be 2 movies, and I'm not sure if it's just scenes from the first one. In the teaser trailer, it could be from both, but I guess we'll see once the movies come out. Speaking of which, once again, Rebel Moon, A Child of Fire, will be released on December 22nd of this year, and then the second film, named The Scargiver, will be released on Netflix April 19th, 2024. I am not sure if these are going to be getting a theatrical release as well, because Netflix is distributing them, so they may just keep them on Netflix and try and get more and more subscribers to that service. But I honestly hope we do get a couple of options to see them on the big screen, because seeing these big sci-fi movies on a little TV, I mean, it's cool and everything that I'll get to see it on the first day it's out for sure, but I want the option to even see this in IMAX. I mean, it looks that cool. So let me know, what do you think of Rebel Moon? Again, I will put the trailer down below in the description. You should definitely check it out. I'm going to be talking about it a lot more on this channel. So if you follow this channel, you will be hearing more about it. But I am super psyched about this. again, there's two things that I'm very psyched about in the near future, and that is this movie and the next series that I'm going to talk about. So I can't wait till Rebel Moon comes out. I think it's going to be awesome, and I can't wait to immerse myself in this universe. But let me know, are you excited for Rebel Moon? And will you be watching it when it is released? All right, so this is like Christmas for me. I get to talk about the other thing that I'm very excited for in the near future, and that is the new series based on the Fallout games that will be released by Amazon. And we got a couple of updates about Fallout in the last week. One of them is official, and one of them is official while not official. And what I mean by that is Bethesda appeared at a gaming convention, Gamescom, in Germany to promote their soon-to-be released game, Starfield. By the way, that game looks amazing too. I will be purchasing the game when it's released here in a week or so. And I'm also going to be live streaming Starfield on this channel. So if you are also a fan of Bethesda games and are looking forward to the release of Starfield, if you're a sci-fi fan, you should love Starfield. It's like this open world, or I should say open universe game. It looks massive. It's all about piloting a ship and getting a crew, and you get to rob and pirate and all this other stuff. And I can't wait for Starfield to come out. So like I said, if you are a fan of that game, definitely subscribe to this channel because I will have some content related to Starfield when it is released. But now back to Fallout. So after the Starfield presentation, Bethesda surprised the audience and showed a really quick teaser trailer of the new Fallout series. Now, I live in Illinois, so there's no way that I was in Germany to see this teaser trailer, but it did get leaked online. And I've seen it in a couple of different places, so I'm not going to put a link to it down below just in case Bethesda gets crazy about it and starts taking those videos down or whatever. But if you do a search on YouTube for Fallout teaser, I bet you'll find it. I found more than one example the last time I checked, which was like a day ago. So anyway, if you haven't seen it yet, I can describe the trailer to you, and it does look pretty cool. I mean, they don't show that much, and I think they're actually not showing a lot of the actual series in the trailer, but I'll talk about it. So this trailer starts out with a fleet of vertibirds taking off from a base. Now, if you're not familiar with the Fallout series, there's way too much to get into right now, but it's an amazing gaming series. It's one of my favorites, but it basically has to do with a divergent past, present, and future of America and the rest of the world that leads to a nuclear war in the very near future, and then the survivors on Earth have to like come together with these ghouls, and it's just in a very immersive universe. Again, it's a lot to discuss. I have many videos on Fallout on this channel, and I really recommend that you check them out. Back to the teaser trailer. You can tell I'm really excited about this. I keep getting distracted by like little things. But anyway, so the teaser starts with a fleet of vertibirds taking off from a base, and then we see a member of the Brotherhood of Steel in one of these vertibirds ready to be deployed. I think that many of these scenes take place before the bombs drop. It's just a lot of this stuff looks very clean in the teaser trailer, and everything in the Fallout universe is dirty because nothing has really been built in hundreds of years because the bombs dropped and everything was destroyed. So like when they showed the vertibirds and they showed the member of the Brotherhood of Steel, I thought that this was pre-war. Now, I don't know if the Brotherhood of Steel existed before the war, so maybe that guy wasn't a member of the Brotherhood, but he did wear like the scribe kind of outfit. That's what it looked like to me. Maybe that's what's going on. But to me, a lot of these scenes look like they're before the bombs drop, including the next one that we see in the teaser, which is just a group of 5 soldiers in power armor walking across a desert. Now, the reason I think that this is before the bombs drop, for one, again, because they look very clean and everything in the Fallout universe is dirty, and two, we never really see 5 people wearing power armor at the same time because, again, it's been hundreds of years since a lot of this stuff has been created, and it's very sparse around the wasteland. Now, I know there are certain times in the Fallout games when we do see characters that have power armor. I know there's those like Elvis guys in Fallout 4, that one like club of people that look like greasers, but they also wear power armor. I can't remember what they're called right now, but I think there's at least 4 characters or 5 characters in that game, and they're all wearing power armor. But usually we don't see like just 5 people walking down the road with power armor. It's usually like one character in the group has like power armor or like part of power armor in the game. So I believe, again, like this shot, like the previous one, is either taken before the war or during the war. Then we see a shot of the character played by Ella Purnell from the back attempting to leave a vault. Now, this live action scene seems to be the same scene that was released as a picture months ago with his vault door opening. I think it was like some kind of anniversary for Fallout, and they released a single still from the series, and we saw like the opening of a vault. And I think that this scene is from that, and we just see Ella Purnell's character leaving a vault. Then we get the coolest shot of the whole teaser, which is a ghoulified Walton Goggins wearing like a duster hat. He's smiling as an explosion goes off in the background in what looks like a shanty town. So the first thing that was exciting for me about this was the way that Walton Goggins looked as a ghoul. He looked awesome. There was an alleged CGI pic that was released a couple months ago showing what was supposed to be what the ghouls look like in this series, and it looked horrible. And by what Walton Goggins looked like in this scene, that was obviously fake because he looks awesome. It's kind of like a Freddy Krueger kind of style. He's like burned and like he's missing part of his face, it looks like, but he's really red, like sunburned. That actually could have been because of the leaked version of the teaser that I saw. But anyway, he looked awesome. He's got this really evil smile. And the hat that he's got on, it almost looks like he's trying to be Hancock. It's not the same hat that Hancock is wearing. And I know that a lot of people have said that Walton Goggins may be playing Hancock, a character from Fallout 4, or a version of that character. I don't know about that, but just from that one scene, like, I can't wait. Like, he's just going to be amazing. And I just can't wait to see what he has in store for us. And then the final shot of the trailer is multiple nuclear bombs going off. It looks like somewhere on the West Coast. Now, my guess is that the series is showing the audience the moment the world ended during World War III in this scene, because you just see like every 100 miles or so a bomb dropping. And again, this is what makes me think that the earlier shots in the teaser were also from before the war, and they're not showing us a lot of the post-war world in this teaser. We only really get the scene with Ella Purnell for like a second, and then we get the scene with Walton Goggins. So the teaser is still available on YouTube if you search for it, and I'm really surprised that Amazon has not released the actual teaser online in its true form. That's why I was kind of contemplating doing a video just on the Fallout teaser because I'm so excited about it. But I was like, I'm going to do this teaser about this leaked video, and then I bet as soon as I load it to YouTube, Bethesda and Amazon are going to actually drop it, and this teaser video is going to be nothing. But they haven't done it yet, so that's why I'm reporting it now. If and when a true teaser trailer is released on YouTube by Amazon and Bethesda, I will probably do a video just on that because I'm so excited about it. But until then, we have this. So, like I said, let me know if you're going to watch the trailer on YouTube or wait for the actual trailer online. But if you want to see it, it is out there. So there was some other news from the Fallout series, and this comes from the official Twitter account. And they released an update last week as well, which stated the series would not only be released on Amazon Prime in 2024, it will take place in Los Angeles. Now, this is kind of a big deal because in Fallout lore, Los Angeles is like destroyed. They explain in most of the games that all the major cities were the ones that were most badly hit when the bombs drop, which makes sense because those are the population centers, right? So like Chicago, LA, New York, you can't even go there because even 100 years later, the fallout is still so bad there that it's so like radiated that any human being would just die just from being there. I wonder if this means that the Fallout series will take place many hundred years after the bombs drop, or maybe they'll make it seem like Los Angeles is maybe more hospitable than people in the Fallout world think it is. Because remember, in the Fallout world, it's a wasteland, so they don't have the internet. You know, it's all just hearsay and stuff. So the fact that the characters in the Fallout universe believe that the LA area is inhospitable may not actually be the case. And most fans already believe that this would take place somewhere on the West Coast because the main vault that it will be featured in the series, I believe, is Vault 33. And the way the numbering convention works for the vaults, they start from west and then they go east. So the smaller number vaults are on the West Coast. The larger number ones are towards the East Coast. So 33 would put it somewhere on the West Coast. And now we see that this will be the LA, which should see some interesting characters. I mean, even 100 years later, we'll probably see a lot of descendants from actors and athletes and stuff like that. There was in Resident Evil, I don't remember which one it was, but Alice goes to LA and she meets all these different characters. Like one is a famous basketball player. There's like an agent there. There's some other like LA style characters there. So we might see some of those kind of characters there, like old Hollywood people that think they're still in like old Hollywood. I could see stuff like that. And also a rumor popped up online last week. Again, take this for what you will, but it's from the same person that said a few weeks ago that the series would be taking place in Los Angeles. And then we found out that that is true. So this may be true as well. But according to that leaker, the Vault-Tec headquarters will be a part of the first season and will be located in Los Angeles. Why this is a big deal is because while Vault-Tec is a major part of the Fallout universe, in the games, it's always kind of seen in the past tense, and they're never really a current threat like the Enclave or the Brotherhood or the Institute. I mean, Vault-Tec obviously did some horrible things in these vaults through their experiments and stuff like that, but we never really like are faced off with Vault-Tec. You know, we're never really like up against them. We're just kind of learning about what they did in the past. And now it seems like Vault-Tec will be an active faction or will be a part of the active story in the Fallout universe, which will be cool because this will give us a window into their actions before the war, and it will also be a way to see something about this universe that we really didn't get to see in games. So again, I am very, very excited for this series. Hopefully it will be released in the first part of 2024. A lot of these releases probably have a lot to do with the writers and actors strike, and I'm going to actually talk about that next. Hopefully that strike gets solved, and then we will see the series in early 2024, because I think it's going to be amazing. I think that this is just the kind of series that could be like the next big thing, the next Last of Us, the next Game of Thrones that everyone's talking about, because it is different, but it is familiar. I mean, everybody has seen The Walking Dead. They know about post-apocalyptic stories, but this is a very different take on The Walking Dead kind of post-apocalyptic story. And while there are characters that may look like zombies or ghouls or whatever you want to call them, there's a very, very deep lore in this universe. And if they talk about everything, I mean, this series could go on for 10 seasons and still be producing new content. So I'm extremely excited for this. I think Walton Goggins is an amazing actor, and his character will be a highlight. But let me know, are you going to search out the Fallout teaser online? Are you going to wait for it to be released? Are you excited for this series? Are you not? Again, just like Rebel Moon, I'll be talking about it a lot on my channel. So if you follow me, you're going to be following this story. And hopefully you will get excited for it as I am, because I think it's going to be great. But let me know, are you excited for the Fallout series? And will you be watching it when it is released on Amazon in 2024? So now I wanted to give you an update on the strike like I just mentioned. First, I'm going to talk about 3 projects that I'm looking into. I don't know if I'm going to say I'm excited for them, but three projects that I would definitely watch that have been delayed. And then I'll give you an update on the strike in general. So last week we found out that the sequel to Dune, the sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong, and the Lord of the Rings animated film, The War of the Rohirrim, have been delayed in 2024. So first, Dune 2, which looks to be pretty epic, will now release on March 15th, 2024. If you follow my channel, you may know that I'm not a huge fan of the Dune universe. For some reason, just everything takes too long for me, and I could never really get into the original Dune film. The one that just came out, I liked. I was able to make it the whole way through. I can't say it's my favorite sci-fi film ever, but I did think it was good enough that I am excited to see the sequel. And one thing that I think is kind of ironic and kind of like bad for this movie is that the first movie, the Dune that was released a year ago, was also delayed. In that case, it was delayed because of COVID. And I think it was delayed over a year because of it. So now the sequel will also be delayed, this time because of a writers and actors strike. So bad luck for the crew over at Dune, but I think that movie will still be pretty popular when it comes out, and it'll still probably be number 1 at the box office for a while. So Dune 2 will now be released March 15th, 2024. Then the Godzilla vs. Kong sequel will now be released on April 12th, 2024. I really liked Godzilla vs. Kong. I mean, my feeling about those movies is the human characters don't matter. Like, I've never liked the human characters in any of these films. Honestly, the only human character I liked was Bryan Cranston's character in the first Godzilla film. I thought he delivered an awesome performance, but every other human character I don't care about. I do care about the monsters, and I think they've done the monsters very well, and I love to see monsters fighting monsters and monsters teaming up to fight other monsters. That is just really in my wheelhouse. So I will be excited for this film when it comes out on April 12th, 2024. Now, this is different from the Godzilla series, or I guess it's not strictly Godzilla. It's a series called Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, and it will be released by Apple TV, and that series is still slated to be released in late 2023. We don't know if that's going to turn, but right now, it looks like we still are going to get Monarch: Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV before the end of the year. This series looks pretty cool, and the coolest thing I think about this series is that it will take place in 2 time periods and follow a single character that is played by Kurt Russell, as well as his son, Wyatt Russell. Wyatt Russell, you probably don't know as well about as his father, Kurt, but Wyatt just appeared in the MCU series The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as well as the film Overlord, which is like the Nazi zombie film from many years ago. I remember him from a very good episode of Black Mirror. But he's a pretty good actor, and of course, he's the son of Kurt Russell. This series, in the past, it will show this character played by Wyatt Russell, and then in the current time period, whatever it is for the series, it will be Kurt Russell playing the same part. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm sure that's been done before more than once, but I can't remember any off the top of my head. But I do think that it is really cool that they did this where they have a son and father who are both established actors, and they're using them both in a series like this. And this series will be the 6th installment in the MonsterVerse series, and it will span 10 episodes. The MonsterVerse series is like the Godzilla and King Kong movies, and we had, Godzilla vs. Kong, and now we'll have this series, and then Godzilla vs. Kong 2 will be released after the series. So I'm excited for all these projects. I like big monster movies, so I'll definitely be watching all of this. And then finally, we have the Lord of the Rings animated film, The War of the Rohirrim, that is now going to be released on December 13th, 2024. This is separate from the Rings of Power Amazon series. So while this all, takes place in the same universe, I guess, it's not going to have anything to do with the people that are making Rings of Power. I just love Lord of the Rings. I love anything to do with Lord of the Rings, so I'm definitely going to be watching this. I love the Rohirrim, too. They're the horse, the guys on the horse, like Carl Urban, his character from the Lord of the Rings films. I am a fan of animated films. I'm going to talk about the Babylon 5 animated film later in this podcast. So the fact that it's animated doesn't really bother me that much. And there are some big names attached to the voices. I think Brian Cox is a character, and there's some other ones too. I can't remember them off the top of my head. It looks like I will have to wait longer to see that film, as it will not be released until December of 2024. But let me know, are you going to see Dune 2, Godzilla vs. Kong 2, the Monarch Legacy of Monsters series I spoke about, or the Lord of the Rings animated film? Are you excited for any of those films? Let me know in the comments below. And now I can give you an update on the strike. And guess what? It's not great news. Every time I bring this up, I always have a glimmer of hope. But yeah, I think my original assumption about this strike and how long it would go is coming to fruition. So recently what's been going on is that the Writers Guild and the Association of Producers had returned to the bargaining table. Now, one of the big things about this, besides them returning to the bargaining table, that was like a glimmer of hope, was that the Association of Producers agreed to begin talks on all aspects of the writers' demands. There were certain bullet points that at first the producers were like, no, we're not even considering it. We're not talking about it. We're not wasting our time. And the Writers Guild and the Actors Guild were like, really? Because these are important issues for us. So that's kind of a dick move. So it turns out that now the Association of Producers have dropped that kind of facade and have agreed to begin talks on all aspects of the writers' demands. The WGA, after those talks, conceded that the sides are now closer, but still very far apart from making a deal. The WG, however, says that the companies continue to refuse to regulate the use of work to train AI to write new content for a motion picture. What producers want to do is that they want to get to a level where AI can either write scripts or rewrite scripts. So basically, like since Buffy the Vampire Slayer has been a series for tons of seasons, you have the AI learn about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and then you have the AI create a script based on Buffy the Vampire Slayer just from all the information available. The current technology is not very good. As far as I hear, like the scripts suck pretty bad and would still need like a human to re-edit them or whatever. And I think that that's one of the things that the producers want, is that they want to be able to do this and just have AI create scripts and then have writers like do edits on them or whatever and not get credited for it, which sounds great. But eventually, I mean, AI is going to develop a way to write scripts, and sooner or later, an AI is going to write a good script, and then the floodgates are going to be open, And of course, they're trying to prohibit that from happening. After the WGA rejected a proposal from the Association of Producers, the producers actually released the details of the proposal to the public to create dissent within the Writers Guild, which is just another dick move. Like, basically, after the WGA representative said, no, we're not accepting your proposal, the producers were like, oh yeah, well, we're going to release it to everybody so they can see what you're rejecting. So maybe they'll start to put pressure on you to actually accept this proposal. Because while most of the writers and actors are in solidarity, there have been a couple of outliers that are like not happy because they have new projects coming out that they can't work on or promote and stuff like that. So this is just the Association of Producers trying to create dissent. This action may have caused the talks to cease once again, and there have been no updates concerning the Actors Guild and their demands, although the writers and actors are said to be standing in solidarity. So even though the writers aren't negotiating along with the Actors Guild, it's understood that kind of what the actors and the writers want are kind of in lockstep. So if the producers agree to the writers' demands, there should be no reason why they wouldn't agree to the actors' demands. And the writers have said that even if they get a deal, they will remain on strike until the actors also receive a deal. So it's kind of going to have to be both things happen at the same time for this to work out right. And because of all this, I still believe that the strike may end in October or early November. Really, the reason for this is the release of holiday movies. And you're already seeing, like I said, some of these movies being delayed into the holiday season, which next to the summer is like the most popular time to go see a movie. So the producers know that that's a big time for them, and they're going to want the actors to be able to promote these films when they're released, and they don't want to keep kicking the can down the road and pushing these release dates because fans are going to stop caring about these projects. So I really think that's going to be money that talks, and when the producers have their backs against the wall and they see that Christmas is coming down the line and they're not going to be able to release these movies with any promotion, they're going to come back to the bargaining table and something will happen. But I mean, it's August right now. I would say the earliest that something will happen is October, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope that next week everything gets solved, but it doesn't look like that's what's going to happen. So let me know, what do you think of this update? Do you still think the producers are evil like I do? Because the writers and actors just seem to be asking for things that seem pretty logical for me, but it doesn't seem very logical the way that the producers are handling this. So let me know, what do you think of the strike? And do you think it will end anytime soon? Now, before I get into my Babylon 5 review, I'm going to do a quick review of the first 2 episodes of Ashoka. Now, this will be a non-spoiler review, just in case you have not watched those episodes yet. They are available on Disney+. And the series Ashoka follows the continued adventures of the characters from the animated series Rebels. But while I was watching them, it reminded me a lot of the Obi-Wan live-action series that was recently also released on Disney+. However, I didn't find the Ashoka series as interesting since I cared about the characters shown on Obi-Wan, and I just don't care about any of these characters on Ashoka. I didn't watch Rebels. It wasn't because I don't like animated series. I just never really got into that series for whatever reason. I tried to watch the first movie. I think the series started with a movie, and I didn't care about the series, and I couldn't really get into it. This series, I kind of felt the same way, even though it was live action. Honestly, I found the robot Chopper to be the most likable and relatable character on this series so far. None of the characters really have any personality, or maybe it's just they have all the same personality. I mean, you can't really see if these characters like each other or don't like each other. I mean, it's kind of obvious that they like each other, but they act like they don't care about each other or barely care about each other. And it's just really weird. And one character in particular, her name is Sabine Wren. She's supposed to be this badass rebellious character, and much of the 2 episodes is spent doing some heavy lifting setting this up. But most of the characters on Star Wars are rebels. The good guys are called the Rebel Alliance. The series that these characters came from is called Rebels. Why does this characteristic make this character, Sabine Wren, any more interesting than the 24 main characters that I have met in this universe that are just like her? Like, why spend so much time showing how rebellious and how badass this character is if, for one, all the characters are like Luke Skywalker? I mean, what was her name? Jen Erso. All these characters are like this. I mean, Jen Erso in particular had this really good line in her film Rogue One, where they asked her what her problem was, and she said, "This is a rebellion, I rebel." That is really the ethos of all these characters. So why are you making it such a point to say like, oh, this character Sabine is such a badass rebel, when like every character is a badass rebel? Ahsoka is a badass rebel. Like I said, it's just all these characters don't really seem interesting to me. They're all kind of the same. They're not very likable. Really, Chopper, there's like one scene with this robot and they're doing the space stuff. And that scene is cool. Like that was like the only scene in these 2 episodes that I really liked. And I thought that Chopper really did a great job there. So good job, Chopper. And there's another robot that is voiced by David Tennant. That's all right. I kind of like him as well. But the like live action characters, I find them very boring and hard to like. And yeah, I wonder if I just at this point have Star Wars fatigue. I didn't like Andor when everyone else did. I did like the Mandalorian series, but I probably liked each season less than the one before it. And again, it's like the Mandalorian, I started to care about those characters. Obi-Wan, I liked because I cared about those characters. I just don't care about any of these characters on this series. And I think that's probably why I don't like it very much. So that's my quick review of Ahsoka. Again, no spoilers, but if you listen to my review, you may not want to watch it. I don't blame you if you don't. I'm probably going to watch it. I think it's only 6 episodes, so because I want to know what's going on, I'll watch it. But yeah, all in all, not a fan of this series so far. Hopefully it gets better. But let me know, have you watched the Ahsoka series? Are you a fan of it? Do you like Star Wars, or do you think you have Star Wars fatigue like I do? Let me know in the comments below. All right, so finally, let's talk about the new animated film from JMS, the creator of Babylon 5, called The Road Home. I will first start with a non-spoiler review, and then I will do a spoiler review. So there will be time codes in the description below if you want to jump around. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, you can just stop watching the podcast once I go into spoilers, and make sure you leave me a like before you do. Thank you very much. So my first thought after watching this film was that it reminded me of the cartoons that movie companies would create based on popular movies after they were released. Like they did one for the Ghostbusters, and they did one for The Mask. I think they did one for like Dumb and Dumber as well. And this film was supposed to have all the heart from Babylon 5, but I just didn't feel it. It just felt like a cartoon version of the live action series that I fell in love with. And I know that basically that's what this is. It just felt disconnected. Like it didn't feel like a continuation. It felt like another version. Like I said, like a Saturday morning cartoon version of Babylon 5, not a continuation of the story. And I also thought the jokes were really bad and mostly fell flat. I mean, I know that the humor on Babylon 5 has always been kind of like off and weird, but most of the time I found myself rolling my eyes harder than my 11-year-old does when I try to talk about Ice Spice with her. You know, I mean, when I do my dad jokes and what she feels, like that's what I felt during some of the jokes during this film, because I really didn't think they landed. And it just, a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the way it was written, I mean, it didn't feel complete. It didn't feel right to me. And it didn't really feel like Babylon 5. The animation itself is not bad, but the way it is used sometimes is not great. For instance, I found it hard to discern who certain characters were, like Susan Ivanova and Elizabeth Lockley. There's one scene in particular with one of them that I didn't even know who was in the scene until the next one when they said their name. So basically, I think the only way to tell these two characters apart is that Ivanova has her hair tied back and then Lockley doesn't. But there's a scene with one of them in a bedroom. So it's like, if this was Ivanova, she wouldn't have her hair tied back while in bed. So I don't know if this is Ivanova or if this is Lockley. And I literally could not tell who it was until the next scene when she said her name. So just stuff like that was just really jarring. And then there were other characters like Jakar, who, while still a bit recognizable, really did not resemble their live action counterparts. And I know that drawing these characters that were created so long ago in animation, it's going to be hit and miss because, you know, you have Uncanny Valley, and these were prosthetics that were created in the 90s. And now we're trying to create CGI animation based on that. I know some of the stuff is going to be weird. But there were other characters like Garibaldi I thought looked a little weird. But really, Jakar was one character that I love, and I know a lot of fans love. And he just did not really resemble his counterpart. Like the coloring was off or something. He was really bright. And I don't remember Jakar ever being that bright. So like I said, it was just kind of weird. And then some of the voice actors, like the person who voiced Jakar, also did not sound like the originals, which really took me out of the story. The only new addition who I thought did a seamless job was the actor who voiced Dr. Franklin, Phil LaMarr. During his scenes, that sounds like Dr. Stephen Franklin. He did a great job. But also, like, I think the person who voiced Delenn tried to emulate the original performance, but in my opinion, the difference is definitely noticeable. And there's these scenes between Delenn and Sheridan, which are supposed to be really close, and I just did not feel that connection like I did in the series, and it was because it was a different voice. And I understand that the original actors passed away, so, like, what are you going to do? But I'm just telling you what I saw and what I heard, and for me, it just didn't work. It just felt, like I said, like a Saturday morning cartoon version where, like, you couldn't get all the actors from the film, so some of the actors are there, and some of the characters are voiced by new actors. That's what this felt like to me over and over again. And also, for me, the plotline itself was not as satisfying, since it really only follows one character, John Sheridan, and that's not really a spoiler to say, but for most of the movie, we're just following what John Sheridan is doing. The other characters from B5 just make like cameo appearances that last anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes of screen time. As a fan of the cast, I was expecting an adventure more similar to the third season of Picard, whereas throughout the season, the characters are brought together. The best part of that season was seeing the TNG crew together, not seeing them individually. So in this movie, we really don't get like that team up scene. I mean, you kind of get it at the end a little bit, but you don't get that scene of like all these different characters coming together once again and solving something new. It's really just all these characters helping John Sheridan deal with what he's dealing with. And I didn't find that as satisfying as it would have been, seeing them all interact together once again. One of the best scenes of the third season of Picard is them in the bar in the last scene of the season. And I think everybody said that who watched the season, just because, and that scene has nothing to do with the story. They don't even talk about the story, I think, when they're playing cards. It's just those actors, those characters together in one scene. And that really was what I was looking for. And without really spoiling it, you really just don't get that in this film. The story itself follows John Sheridan as he shifts through time and space. And not only is this premise not really explained in this film, but every franchise right now is doing multiverse stories. Star Trek, the MCU, the DCEU, even Spider-Man has his own Spider-Verse. And then we have that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, that won an Oscar. I mean, everything is multiverse right now. So why would you create a new film based on the multiverse? I mean, that is just so played out that the MCU is dying right now because of their use of the multiverse. And so is the DC universe. So why you would write a story about the multiverse, I just don't understand. And JMS has a lot of ties to Spider-Man, so he knows that this stuff is coming down the pipe. So I don't know why you would use the multiverse as a vehicle in this new story, because it just seems really played out to me. And then the ending itself, without spoiling it, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and it left me confused at first. Like, I had to think about it, and then I even had to go online and read reviews to see what other people thought of the ending, because there's kind of two there's like an ending, and then something else happens, and then it's like, wait a minute, what does that mean? Like, I know that I can't really get into it without going into spoilers, and I will talk about it in spoilers, but where the movie actually ends, it left me thinking, like, wait, what are we here now? Like, what's going on? I really don't understand what just happened. So it was a big swing and a miss for me. The only really thing that I latched onto that I liked in this film was the way they did Zathras. I liked how they developed his character. I liked how he interacted with the characters. His dialogue seemed very much like the character. He was the only one that really seemed like the same character from Babylon 5. I don't know why that was, but that was the only character they nailed, was Zathras. And he's not one of the main characters. I mean, in the story, he kind of is, but from, the pantheon of Babylon 5, he's not one of the main characters. But in my opinion, it's Zathras, and then everything else was pretty bad. But I don't know. Let me know. Will you still watch this film even after my glowing review, or did this turn you off from watching this film? Again, it's not because it's animated. I enjoyed many animated things, but it just felt like a Saturday morning cartoon version of Babylon 5. That's the best way for me to sum this up. Like, again, where they can't get all the voice actors back, so you have some voice actors that are the actual actors that play the characters, and then you have new people come in too, and the animation doesn't really match the characters that you saw on screen, and I was really disappointed. So let me know, will you still be seeing Babylon 5 The Road Home, or are you going to skip it, especially after my review? All right, so now let's talk about spoilers from the film if you have seen it, or if you just don't plan to see it and want to know what happens. So first, I'll go through the story, and the film starts a couple years after the end of the Shadow War, with John Sheridan leaving B5 for Minbar and Elizabeth Lockley taking command, which I thought was cool. I thought that was a good way to start it because that's kind of how the show should have ended. And it's a good kind of like way to segue into a new adventure. So when the film first started, I was like, all right, this is probably going to be cool. So when Sheridan arrives in Minbar, he is present for a demonstration of a new machine that generates a power source, and then it sends him to the future. Now, this is one of my problems with this film because they don't really explain why this is happening. Is it because he's John Sheridan? Is it because he's human and everybody else there is not? They just like John Sheridan says, what is this made out of? And they say tachyons, and he's like, oh boy. And then he starts getting sent to other places. That's really, I mean, we get a little bit more explanation later from a really weird character. But for me, I was just like, that they just glossed over that. They were just like, okay, we're doing a time travel story, and this is the way we're doing it, and we're not really going to worry about how we get there. So in Sheridan's first jump, he meets Dr. Stephen Franklin, and this is like 20 years after this event, and they figure out that Sheridan is slipping through different time periods and alternate universes, and that he needs to find Zathras. Before they can do anything else, John is sent to Earth on the day he took over B5 and spends some time with his father. He is then sent to the moment that was the catalyst for many of the events seen on B5, the awakening of the Shadows. Sheridan then jumps to a universe where he never took over B5, and Sinclair is the commander during the Shadow War. They work together with Garibaldi, Lita, and Jakar to destroy the station, which allows the survivors a chance to escape. Sheridan then jumps to his correct timeline and works with Lockley to find Zathras on the planet. When they get there, Zathras already knows what is happening and shares that there is now a whole race of Zathras called the Zathrai. I really like this. I was really not into the movie until this scene, and this scene kind of brought me back into it because seeing all the different Zathras, and again, I think they really nailed the dialogue for Zathras better than any other character. This scene got me back in the movie, and I was like, okay, second act, let's go. Let's do something great here. But yeah, it really didn't happen for me. So next, Sheridan jumps to an alternate universe where we lost the Shadow War, and Earth is destroyed by the Vorlons, who push the moon into the Earth and destroy it. This scene in particular for me was very underwhelming animated. I would have loved to have seen it in live action. I think it's a great idea to have an alien race push the moon into the Earth to destroy both. But seeing it animated, it was just really, I was like, oh, I would love to see this in live action. But yeah, just seeing it animated and then seeing these big waves come over and stuff, it's just oh my God, it would be so much better in live action. But anyway, back to the story. Then Sheridan jumps to a place called the Edge of the Universe and talks to a character that looks like Jakar but is someone else. The character explains further to Sheridan what is going on and kind of explains in a roundabout way how he's the watcher of the universe or something and why this is happening to him. But honestly, I thought in a lot of ways the character that was embodied by Jakar in the scene was supposed to be the embodiment of the series creator JMS in his own universe. So basically, this was John Sheridan speaking to JMS through Jakar about Babylon 5 and his influence over this universe. This scene was all right, but again, I was just taken out of it so much by the way Jakar looked. And in this scene in particular, it's Jakar in this black space. So he really looks really bright. And that was the thing that was most off-putting for me about how Jakar was drawn, is just he was so bright. And I don't remember that being the way he looked in live action. So this scene, again, it was kind of convoluted. It reminded me of that scene in The Matrix where he meets the architect and you see all these different screens of Neo and stuff. And he's explaining what's going on, but it still doesn't make any sense at all. That's pretty much what happens in this scene. But finally, Sheridan jumps to another alternate reality where the Shadows were never awakened and Babylon 5 has seen only peace. While there, he's found by the Delin from his own universe and they reunite. The film ends showing the crew from the alternate universe where the Shadow War did not happen, and Jeffrey Sinclair is the commander. So this is what was weird for me, because I didn't understand that this was basically a backdoor pilot for a new Babylon 5 reboot. And I think that that's kind of the plan with this movie. If there's enough interest that they would reboot Babylon 5 with these new voice actors in this new alternate universe. But it's not really clear, at the end of the film. You kind of expect it to end with Delin and Sheridan together and fine and yada, yada, yada. But the last scene is in this new universe and, the character is narrating what is going on. So again, I was really confused, and it almost seemed to me the whole point of this film was just to set up a reboot. And that's kind of the way it moves along. That it's just trying to pull on your heartstrings for things that you liked in Babylon 5 and taking you back to moments that maybe you didn't see or maybe you forgot about, or different versions of a moment. And then it ends with like Babylon 5 in a new universe. So it was really weird for me, and it just seemed really like it was to set up a reboot, which is probably not going to happen because I don't think this movie is very popular. And I also had a problem, again, with the very loose explanation of the plot. I don't really understand why this is happening to John Sheridan specifically, if he is like the major player in this universe and that everything revolves around him, because now there's a younger John Sheridan in this other alternate universe that we're supposed to follow. So again, it's just very loose, and I guess it's just all there to set up this reboot that's never going to happen. And if they are trying to set up a reboot, I don't understand why they released this film in the manner that they did. Because according to JMS, this film has been done for a year, and that was way before the writers and actors strike. So releasing something now, it hurts the promotion of the film. And this film is only available as of releasing this podcast through digital download at $20 a pop, which at $20 a pop, if you're not a diehard Babylon 5 fan, are you going to pay $20 to watch a roughly hour-long animated Babylon 5 film? Hell no. Like, who would watch this movie that's not like the biggest Babylon 5 fan? So like, I saw a lot of positive reviews, especially from like people on Twitter, but I really think that that's because the only people seeing this movie are like your die-hard Babylon 5 fans that will just like anything new because they just love Babylon 5. And that's fine. If you're like that, that's fine. I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just saying that that's why I think some of the early reviews have been a little more positive, because the only people seeing this are diehard Babylon 5 fans, because you have to pay $20 to watch it at home. So again, I think this whole film is a swing and a miss. I think the only purpose was to create like a backdoor pilot for a reboot, and I can't see this being popular enough to create that reboot. So just a big swing and a miss for me. But let me know in the comments, did you watch The Road Home? Did you enjoy it? Am I crazy? Are you going to recommend it to other people? Do you see my point of view? Or do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that is all I have this time, but let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Thank you once again for joining me today. Please do not forget to hit that like button if you have not yet, and I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?